talking a little bit about Lions football. Uh, Won their last game against the Bears. That was a cool walk-off kick. I watched that when I was actually at Planet Fitness on the old elliptical watching that game, and they ended up beating the Bears. But
Question real quick.
you could say, what's
Question real
that?
quick. Would you have
What's up?
rather would you rather the Lions have won that game or lost that game and have like gone up 2 draft spots?
With the smartest man in the room syndrome that we got going on in Detroit, I don't really think it matters all that much, to be
Mm.
completely honest with you. I think we capitalized off the Stafford trade. I think we got a lot of good pieces for that, and we made a lot of noise. And now I think Brad Holmes thinks he's the smartest man in the room.
Yeah.
I think he thinks he's the smartest man in the room. I think he thinks he's the smartest man in the NFL.
Same with
And
Scott
so what,
Harris,
what
Stevie
right.
Y.
Why if we have those extra draft picks, what is he going to do with them? Right? And I know we're about to talk about that and what they need to do going into next year. But that's a major concern for me, Ryan Glinsky. That is a major concern. It worked out for you. Now you have this ego about yourself and you think that you can do different things and think differently than everybody else and make it work. It's no different than our head coach going on 4th and 1 when he could just take the points and set his team up for success later on. Right? It's smartest man in the room. It's our identity. It doesn't really matter. Yeah, it would have been a help. I like finishing it off with a dub. I like sending Chicago off with an L into the playoffs. That's kind of a good feeling. I don't really think there's going to be a hangover effect just simply because it was a regular season game. I mean, no one really cares. You're already in the playoffs. But no, what do those draft picks mean if we don't do anything with them? And I'm not going to sit
Nothing.
here and just assume that we wouldn't have done anything with them. That's my question, though.
They wouldn't gain. They would not gain a ton. Uh,
Yeah.
because I mean, granted, they don't have any. They spent 3 third-rounders on Isaac Tesla. So that was a little bit interesting. But again, gosh, I have no idea what that. Would they gain significant? I think it would depend. I think it would depend where you draft players and what type of a player. So if they were to draft an edge at opposite age of Hutchinson, I think that player makes way more of an impact than what we have currently because I think you're getting a better player than what, Josh Pascal, Marcus Davenport, anything. Who's the other one? AQM. AQM is like he's a plug and play guy. He comes in special moments. Do I really want to pay him $8 million? Not really. But anyway, I think that one would make a factor. I think if you get I think if you were to draft another linebacker, if you would, because I don't know if Anzalone returns, that they would look a lot better. Offensive line depends where. But no,
Yeah.
it depend. I think it just depends where you draft them. If they make that much of an impact.
Yeah. And the thing is about the NFL is, and it's different than I feel like any other sport. Like you talk about the NBA, like the biggest moves are made in trades, right? Like you can find a gem in the draft, but once you get past, around, pick number 10, maybe you're talking about role players, you're talking about guys who might be G leaguers, right? When you talk about Major League Baseball, obviously it's a lot different. You can find guys all the way down the line. Hockey, I don't really know how that works. I don't really pay attention to the hockey draft all that much. However, in the National Football League, you can find players all the way up until the end, right? I mean, Mr. Irrelevant, Brock Purdy, is in the playoffs right now with San Francisco. Now, that's a rare case,
Made a
but
Super Bowl.
still, I mean, it just shows, right? It shows that you could do that. And so when I think about the draft and I think about the Lions and where do they need to add depth, and you talked about a lot of this, but right now I'm just going to answer it. What I was thinking coming into this show. The first thing on my mind is you have to now build an offensive line, right? You were aging, you had injury issues coming into the season, you did nothing to address the problems. Zero. And then what happens? You don't have an offensive line that's capable of protecting Jared Goff. And by the way, Jared Goff, I think he gets a level of disrespect from Lions fans that I don't really
Yeah.
understand. And I think it comes from people who just don't really understand the game of football. Right? These are the same bozos who think it's smart to go on 4th and 2 on in a situation where you can get points. These are the same bozos who think that the Lions are getting hurt all the time because they're playing too hard, right? No, no, okay? Build an offensive damn line. Address those issues coming into the season. That was something that Brad Holmes missed on majorly. Oh, and by the way, your offensive line is going to decide whether or not you win football games. Point blank, period. There are universal truths in this sport, and one of those universal truths is absolutely that. Build an offensive line, get young talent, right? Start to build that group from the bottom up. Because when we're over here celebrating that we're getting a veteran offensive lineman back in week, what was it?
Oh,
That
that was right before
was
the
it.
Packers game.
Yeah. Oh, he's just gonna pop off his couch and he's gonna come back and play for us. He's coming out of retirement. Like that's gonna make all the difference in the world. Are you mental? You realize what it means to be in playing shape? No one just comes out of retirement. I mean, unless you're freaking Phillip Rivers and you're just a big fatty back there just throwing the football around because you only have to hold on to it for 2 seconds. All right, that's a little bit different. Okay, but you need to build this offense. You need to get this offensive line back because when the Lions were winning games consistently, where did it start, Ryan? It started on
Up
the
front.
ground. It started because they could bully teams down the field. And when you do that, you dominate time of possession, you don't give the football back to the other team, and they have to be extremely efficient when you do give it back.
And
Right?
gives your
3
defense
yards
a
in a cloud.
rest.
Yes, 3 yards in a cloud of dust works sometimes. All right? And not that they had a great passing game. They have had a great passing game since Jared Goff came in. And obviously, with J-Mo and Amon-Ra St. Brown and the type of player that he's turned into, like they can throw the football around. But everything for that team when they almost got to the Super Bowl started up front. It started because they had a dominant offensive line who could control the other side of the football. They didn't have that this year. I mean, going into the final weeks, I didn't even know who was playing center for us. It was
No one knew.
practice squad guy. I don't know who number 65 is. I didn't even know. But I mean, that guy got blew up. Every single play, I'm watching this offensive line get blown up. So if I'm Brad Holmes, don't overthink it. Build the offensive line. Right? That is step number one for me. If you want to fix this organization, that is where it has to begin. In my personal opinion. Now, the secondary is obviously a concern. I think the pass rush needs more help. I'm a Michigan guy. I talk about it all the time. I don't think Hutch is as dominant as people make him out to be.
No.
I think he's a very good defensive end. I think he's a very good proficient defensive end. But the injury that he had is not something that you come back and you play at the same level you were playing at before.
No.
It just doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. That's not how the body works. I realize he's healed. I realize he's still athletic and strong and all these things, but you need to find someone else who can play opposite of him and give this team a chance to actually have a reliable pass rush the way that I felt like they had before. Because Hutch was wreaking havoc before the injury. This year, he didn't really do nearly as much as what I think we expected out of him. So kind of like you said, I think someone opposite of Hutch is very important. Secondary, everything else along those lines. But really, man, I think it starts up front. I really do think it starts up front. And we'll see how they handle it come the NFL draft. But that's kind of my look at how to fix this team. But it's frustrating. It's absolutely frustrating. And I think the assumption that this team was just coming into the year and nothing's going to change. We still got all of our pieces. We still got everything we need to go make a run. And then obviously you deal with the injury issues. And that's another thing about this team too, is like, how do you get away from that? Like, is it the turf? Is it the training
I have
staff?
heard the turf sucks in Ford Field. It's very
I
rough on
mean,
the body.
it's not great. It's not great. Like, so what is it about this team right now that they simply cannot stay healthy? Because that's the one thing that it doesn't matter how well you draft, doesn't matter how well you develop, doesn't matter how well you do on any of those other things. If you can't stay healthy, you're not going to win football games. And this is a team that for the last 2 seasons has not been able to consistently stay healthy enough to be able to go make runs, including last year. I mean, offensively, we were in a place to go make a run. Defensively, we had a practice squad out there. I mean, I think we had the most players called up from the practice squad in the NFL last year, like 3 or 4 of them to come play on the actual team. I mean, that's ridiculous. So you can't really get away from that. But where it starts for me with the Lions moving forward, you have to develop an offensive line. Okay, and don't go all out on a receiver from Hudsonville.
So I got a couple moves that the Lions and a couple
All right,
names.
all right.
I would say So we all know Taylor Decker's retiring, right? We all know Taylor Decker. Everything just points towards he's retiring, and
Yep.
so you have a new left tackle, but that also clears up about $15 million in terms of cap space. So my solution is based on this. My solution to either Penne goes to left, maybe you draft a rookie goes to right, but I'm drafting a tackle in the draft. I really like.
Yeah.
Again, the kid out of Miami, Francis, can't pronounce the last
Mhm.
name. That's just me. I think Caden Proctor is a good choice as well. I think the kid out of
Yep.
Utah, Spencer Fano, is a good choice. Again, I don't know if he makes it that far. Again, I don't know if all these players make it that far, but that's where I'm going in the first round. I'm drafting an offensive tackle because that's where it goes because now you have Taylor Decker out. Ratledge stays at right guard. You have what's his name? Sewell at one of the tackle positions, but there's three positions kind of wrapped up there. But now you have all that. You still have money to play with. You can go out in free agency and looking at guys that will be. Zeitler's going to be back in free agency, but I highly doubt he comes back and returns. Do you look at where's his name from the Browns? Where's he at? Do you look at a Wyatt Teller? Do you look at an Ethan Pochich? Pochich at center. They're all valued at under about 12 million under that cap hold of what Taylor Decker would be, and they're on the Browns, so it wouldn't be hard. Wouldn't be hard to go get.
To go out and snag him.
Do you go
Yeah.
get players like that are going to be up? Obviously, there's a couple other centers from a McGovern from the Bills. Obviously, you're not going to get him; he's going to cost too much. But you have to go out in free agency and get a center. I'm not drafting a center this year and hoping that he could be something good. No, I'm going out in free agency and going to get a center at some point. Maybe you draft
Yep.
another guard in the second round, maybe later on, but you still have Mahogany in there, so you could still use him. But I am drafting a tackle and I'm signing a center. That's where those first two moves are made. Maybe Graham Glasgow retires as well, and that clears up another little bit of money as well. And then I'm looking in terms if you can't solve the offensive issues, the offensive line issues, then do you trade a David Montgomery? Because if there is a bad offensive line, Jahmyr Gibbs hides a lot of that because he's Jahmyr Gibbs and he can do a whole bunch of stuff. Montgomery's not
Yeah.
that player. Montgomery is not a player that can hide a bad offensive line. You put him behind. He's a good player. Don't get me wrong. He seems like he's a good person. He can do everything that you need him to do. But you have a bad offensive line. Do you trade a David Montgomery? That clears up, I think, $6 million. I think that's what the contract is. Then you could then use that money towards a corner. You could use that money towards a safety because let's be honest, I don't know who the safeties are going to be next year because Kirby Joseph has this nagging injury that might affect him for a long time, and Branch isn't going to start the year because he has an Achilles injury. But I'm looking at that offensive line. I'm drafting and I'm signing the center, and then with that second round pick, I'm either drafting a defensive player, a defensive line player. Maybe I'm looking at a safety or corner, but I'd still have gone defensive
Mhm.
line because where has Aleem McNeil been the last month? Where's he been since he's returned? You are making $24 million a year, Aleem, and you make like a tackle a game. That's what you're making, and
Yeah.
that's what your production is. We might as
Yep.
well roll out the practice squad players at that point. But again, if you cut Aleem McNeil, you don't even really gain any money out of it, so you still have to have him out in the field. But can we get the old version of Aleem McNeil back? Maybe the injury was holding him back a little bit. I don't know. But those are my solutions. You've got to draft a tackle, sign a center. Maybe you draft a guard, but that second round pick has got to be a trench player, I think, in my opinion, whether that's a guard, a D tackle, a D end, and then maybe use some of that money to get another safety. And then, I haven't gotten to the coordinator part. I forgot about the coordinator part. Johnny Moe's got to go. Johnny Moe has
Yeah.
got to go.
Yep.
That's not, that rhyme. Johnny Moe has got to go. I
Johnny
like
Moe's
that.
got to go.
Johnny Moe has got to leave. Do you look potentially at a Kevin Stefanski? Maybe. He just got freed up. And then do you look at a Mike McDaniel? Do you look at a Mike McDaniel possibly as an offensive mind? Defensively, do you keep again? I don't think they would fire if they were to fire anyone. I think it'd be Johnny Moe. I don't think they would try to do two new coordinators again for another year. I don't think. But if a coordinator like a Brian Flores became available, because He hasn't signed his contract extension with the Vikings. I think he gets a head coaching gig, to be quite honest with you. But if that type of a coach becomes available, I'm talking Brian Flores doesn't sign anywhere, doesn't re-sign. I'm Dan. Blank check. Put it forward.
Yeah.
I'm getting rid of Shep.
Yep.
I'm not. Maybe you demote Shep, but I'm sending the Brinks trunk to Brian Flores. But that is my